Welcome! We're making tiles for the OPA tile installation project. Kathy is adjusting the height of her slab roller. How thick are we starting out with?
We're starting out at 1 inch, and we're basically going to show you how I start throwing the slabs that'll become the tiles to minimize warping in the tile. And that happens from the very beginning. And the number one rule of tile making is, and slab making in general, touch the clay with your hands as little as possible. So slab mats are going to be great for this. They're not expensive, they're reusable, and once you use them, you will, once you go slab mat, you'll never go back. So we start at 1 inch. We want to roll them out in increments and try to spread the tension in all directions, and that's just going to, if you always roll in one direction, you're going to make it want to curve in that direction. So we want to kind of spread it out. So the first thing we're going to do is pull it through once to get it long enough. We're doing 8.5 inch by 8.5 inch tiles. So the first pull through will make this 8.5 inches long, at least. You're going to have extra, but this isn't really a place where you want to be real stingy with your clay. And I do like to go through both ways. I think it just evens out the tension, and you know, you've heard about aligning the plates in the clay, and I feel like it does that. So we're using a little template, and we can see we're plenty long enough now. So now we have to start making it wide enough. Got any questions over there? And this is where the slab mats are pretty much indispensable. You can lay them down, pinch them together. The clay sticks to them, so you don't actually have to grab onto the clay and just flip them over. The slab mats tend to get wet if you use the same area too long. It soaks up a lot of moisture and can be hard to handle. So we look for a dry area, put it down, and I go at, what are these, 1/8 increments? I guess 1/8 increments. I'm not very good with numbers. Pass it through again. It's gotten a little wider. Flip it again. Find ourselves a nice dry spot on the mat. Like with most things, it's nice to have one set for white clay and one set for dark clay. Doesn't matter too much if you're just using stoneware, but once you get into porcelain, you know. And we're going to do this until we're down to about 3/8 is the thickness our tile is going to be. If it were a bigger tile, I would not want it to be that thin, but at 8 inches, these will go down to about 8 by 8. And since they're earthenware, we won't really be using them as floor tiles. So this thickness will be fine.
Now we've chosen the earthenware, the low fire terracotta, so that we can use the bright colors that are available at that firing range and just explore some very old-fashioned techniques for decorating tiles.
This will probably be our last pass. And I want to go through, even though I won't be going any thinner, I do still like to go both ways and just sort of get lots of good even squishing. So again, we're not going to touch this with our hands. We're not going to peel it up off of there or anything. We're going to go ahead and cut the size of the tile. So,
Do you want to put it on your finger?
oh yeah, you don't have to, but yeah, it's probably best if you do. And this, you'll see why I like the slab mat so much, because the clay is just really going to stick to the mat even when you do this, so it makes it really easy to just flip it right over onto the, we're using drywall, and we're going to sandwich these things between drywall. This clay is never going to come off of the drywall until it's almost completely bone dry. You won't touch it, you won't pick it up off of there, you'll just leave it on there, and this becomes your little palette and your work surface. So it'll just kind of live here until, when they get almost bone dry, like really leather hard or hard cheese, I don't mind taking them off to dry, and I dry them on edge. And if you make yourself, if you're going to do a lot of tiles and you make yourself a little template like this, it just makes this part of it go really easy. And since we have to make a lot of tiles,
It's coated in plastic.
yeah, it's laminated actually. So then the last things I like to do are just give it a smoothing. It's not really necessary, but I don't know, makes me feel better. If you wanted to smooth both sides, you just take another piece of drywall and put it on here and flip it over. And I do like to compress the edges. And that goes back to my mentor. And my mentor was a stickler for compressing the edges of tiles, and she was a very successful production potter. So some things you don't even bother understanding why you do it. You just do it. And then what we'll do is we'll sandwich this between two pieces of drywall, and we'll leave it overnight. And by tomorrow it should be just about the right moisture content to do things like sgraffito or start decorating, start incising into or building up onto. So there you go.